Hi guys, in this video we will see about essential Dart that is required for Flutter development. First, we need to understand that what is Dart. It is a programming language that is used to develop applications using Flutter. As we know that Flutter is an UI toolkit which was developed by Google for creating natively compiled application. And the benefit of Flutter is that once we write the code, it can be ran in mobile, it can be ran in web, and same for the desktop. We don't need to write separate code for each platform. From a single code base, we can run the application into these three platforms. And Dart is the language that powers Flutter, and that is why it is integral to Flutter development. So before getting started with Dart, we will learn some basic concepts that are required for the Flutter development, and the rest of the concepts we can directly see in the while developing applications using Flutter. So let's get started. These are the basic concepts. If you are familiar with any other programming language, then it can be a quite easier stuff for you. So first, let's start with data types. Basically, there are these five data types that are essential while learning Dart. So first one is the number data type, where the number can be stored in int or double. Then the string, the value can be stored in a string data type. Then booleans to store true or false values. We can use bool. Then collections to store multiple values inside a single data type. Then we use collections. And inside that there are list, set, and map. So list is used to store multiple values. Set is used to store the unique values because inside set there can't be duplicate values. And for map, we can store the values in a key value pair. Okay. And the next one is future and stream. This comes into picture if you are writing any backend code such that fetching data from the internet where you need some time because data can be fetched in fraction of second. It may require some times, and in order to say that the data is coming from the internet, we need to wait for some time. Then we use future and stream data types. We will see why developing application using Firebase as a backend. Okay, so this was all about the data types. Let's see in the code editor how we can define the data types, how we can write, and how we can perform operations inside that. So this is the Visual Studio code, and I had created a main.dart file. The extension for the Dart files are .dart. So here I will write a main function which will be void main, and inside that we can define the data types. So first we will look into the basic data types such as int value. I can define int value such as 10. So here this is the data type, and this is the name of the data type, like uh, what name should we give to that integer value. So I had given a. Okay, so a will hold the value of 10, and then we can directly print a here. Let's try to do it. So here you can see 10 will be printed, and if suppose I want to add any operation inside that, suppose if I want to double the number, then simply I can do is get the value of a, multiply it by 2, and then again store it inside a. Okay, if I try to run this code, then 20 will be printed here. So in this way we can perform basic operations. To store the string, we can use the string data type, then the name which you want to give for that string. Suppose I will write it as temp. This is the string. Okay, and if I want to print, then I will directly write temp here. Let's see. Yeah, so this string has been printed. In this way we can define data types. We can use the list, key, and map further while developing the applications, because we don't need to bombard more content here. Okay, so this was all about the data types. Now let's see about the loops. Basically, inside loops, we will see for loop. First, we need to understand about what is loop. Loop is nothing. If we want to perform operation a number of times, then we use loop. Let's see an example for that. As you can see, here is a for loop where I had initialized a variable to 0, and then I am incrementing its count by 1 till it is less than 5. So till the value is less than 5, this statement will be true, and it will get inside the for loop and print the numbers. Okay, so for first time the value will be 0, I is equal to 0. It will check whether the statement is correct. Yeah, it is correct. Then it will increment the value, and after incrementing, previously it has checked that 0 is less than 5, so it will get inside the for loop and it will print number I as 0. Then as the value is incremented, the value will be 1. It will check 1 is less than 5. Yeah, it is. Then it will increment the value again, so value will be 2, and previously it has checked value is less than 1, so it will print 1 here. Okay, so the flow is like, first it will initialize the value, then it will check a condition, then it will perform this operation and go inside the for loop. If this condition meets, then again it will come outside of this for loop, then it will skip this initialize state and it will directly go into the second state, and it will check the condition whether this condition holds true or not. If it holds, then it will be true. It will perform an operation and then go inside the for loop. And in case if I will become 5, then this condition doesn't meet, then it will go into the next state, the value will be 6. But as this condition has failed, it will not go inside the for loop. Okay, so this was all about the for loop. The same thing here appears for the list of strings, where we are storing multiple values inside the fruits variable. We had defined a list, and once we had defined the list, we need to define the data type, like which data type values are we going to store inside this variable. So here we had defined the list of strings, and we had defined values here to loop the values that are present inside this list. We can directly use fruit inside fruits. So fruits will be this array, and this fruit will be one value. For the first iteration it will be apple, for the second iteration it will be banana, and for the third it will be cherry. So in this way the for loop works. Let's see into the code editor how we can write it. Okay, this was the existing code about the data types. So in order to write the loops, we can directly use for syntax. Then we need to initialize a value here. Let's say I equal to 0. Then provide a condition that I will be less than 10. Till then only perform operation. If I will exceed 10 or equal be 10, then don't perform the operation. And then we need to add incremental. So let's see by printing the value. I try to print, the value will be from 0 to 9. For 10 it will not count because we had placed less than 10. If suppose we place it less than or equal to 10, the value will be counted as 10. Okay, and this step is important because if we don't provide any condition that this value changes, suppose if I leave it as empty space and try to run, then it will go inside infinite loop. Because the value has not changed, this condition will be always true. That's why. Okay, this was about the for loop. Now let's see about classes and objects. uh, this is a big topic we will see while developing the applications, because while interacting with database we need to create class and object so that the operation becomes much more easier. So let's understand it by definition. What is class? Class in Dart is nothing but a blueprint for creating objects, and it defined a set of properties and methods that object create from the class can have. An object is nothing but an instance of class. It is created using the new keyword or directly calling the class constructor. Okay, so let's see in the code what exactly it is. Basically, you can see that there are many students inside a class. So each student have many properties such as they have different heights, they have different colors, they have different roll numbers. And in order to track all this property uh, by using the different data types, it can be quite difficult one. So for that we can directly use class. Okay, we will create a structure called as student. It is named as class, and then it will have some properties such as roll number. Then it can have string of name. Okay, for now we will take two properties. The question mark here is nothing but it states that value is not null. Then it will have a constructor, because as we create object, it means as we create instance for the student, then this value should be defined. So for that I can directly write student, the name of the class, and then we need to pass the roll number and name, and then we can assign what this keywords does is that it will fetch the variables from this class and assign it to the values that we had passed inside the constructor. Okay, and there can be a method such as void. By using dollar symbols, it states that this is a variable and this is the not the content of the string. Okay, so as roll number is variable here, we can print it inside the print statement. And we had created an instance, we had created an class for student. We need to create an instance. So for that, first we need to write the name of the student, name of the class of the student, and then the name that we want to give. For now I will create an object, so it will have a new student, and the roll number will be 28, name will be, let's give my name. Okay, so as we had created object, we can directly access the methods that are present here. Okay, so one more thing, while we had created the values, we need to provide the access modifier here. Once the object has created, we can access the values. So for that we can directly use object1 dot print value, and if I try to run this one, it will say the roll number is 28 and the name is Aditya. Okay, so in this way we had created a class, then we had created an object. We can create as many object we want. Okay, so object 1 will hold these two values, object 2 can hold another values. It will reduce the use of code, and we don't need to write the repetitive code for each time we create a new student. So in this way we had seen the classes and object. We will see more in deep while we are developing the application. Next thing is about exception handling. So for that we use try catch block. It is nothing like if we are not sure about any piece of code and which have an potential to break the application flow, then we can use try catch block. So inside try catch block we can put a piece of code in the try block that we are not sure of, and if this code fails, it will catch an exception inside the catch block, and we can handle the exception here. Suppose if we are dividing the number by any other number, and the other number is nothing but 0. As we know that it can't be possible, but if user inputs 0 by 0, then what we can do? So in that case, we can place that division code in the try block, and if that situation triggers that user is entering two numbers 0 0, which states that 0 divided by 0, so we can handle those situation inside catch block. We can say that this is not possible to divide any number by 0. Please enter the correct inputs. And then finally, this code will be executed. We can use try catch only, or if we want to use final block, we can use it. If we don't want, we can ignore it. So try catch blocks are important if we are handling any HTTP request where we don't know what exactly the content is, because if we are fetching the string values and we had defined it in the integer value, then it will throw an error. So in that case, we can use try catch block. It will make sure that the code will not block, and it will handle the error in a better way. Okay, so these were all the basic topics that we require while developing the application in Flutter. There are many more topics in the Dart which we'll see while developing the applications through an example.